Above the SUV, Jungkook stands for love that is invisible but always there. That night, the atmosphere around the Kangwon military headquarters seemed ordinary to the eyes of outsiders. But for those who pay attention to small details, something unusual is happening. A group of security personnel appeared to be on tighter alert than usual, while several dark SUV vehicles entered silently, parking in rows on the edge of the barracks. Among the vehicles, one of them became a silent witness of the moment. Even without words, without music, without camera highlights, it has shaken the hearts of many people. Because it was from the top of the SUV that Jungkook stood, not for the formalities, not for the photos, but for someone he had been guarding in silence all this time, Park Jimin. That day was the day Jimin was scheduled to return to a different barracks unit after completing advanced training. Several other members of the unit came to give a short greeting. But there was one figure who remained standing, still, without approaching Jungkook. He already knew that day would come, but when reality was in front of him, his body did not move. Only his eyes followed Jimin's figure from a distance. Jimin's steps were small, but steady. He was wearing a full uniform, his hair slightly wet by the drizzling rain. He didn't even look back. But everyone knew. He knew that Jungkook was there. As the black SUV started the engine, Jungkook stepped over the rear hood. It stands. Stand up. Shut up. But the look in his eyes said a lot. I see you. I won't forget. And even if they never let us say anything, I stand here for you. A fellow soldier who is also a big fan of BTS wrote on the military community platform, I saw Jungkook standing on the SUV like a statue of a guard. He didn't say anything, but all we know, it's not a show-off. That's a statement. Then, that same night, a blurry photo began to spread. Jungkook stands upright on an SUV in the background of a military barracks, his hands clasping a helmet, his eyes pointing to the exit. Netizens enlarged it and realized her tears are falling. But he stood still. They never said the relationship existed. The world is not blind. The world saw how Jungkook's gaze changed every time Jimin appeared. The world heard how Jungkook's voice trembled when he mentioned the name Jimin in the interview. And the world watched that night when his body did not move, but his soul cried out, I am here. I'm not going anywhere. Some army wrote on Twitter/X, standing on a car is not a style. It's a symbol that he stands taller than all limits just to be able to see the person he loves longer. If this is not a sincere form of silent love, I no longer know what love means. A few days after the incident, Jungkook reportedly asked for more time in the headquarters' small music room. He recorded voices, composed lyrics in low tones. Then, a coach found the lyrics left behind. You're not looking, but I know you're feeling. I am voiceless, but my love stands higher than any cheer. The car finally drove off, taking Jimin away. But Jungkook's vision remained unaltered until the vehicle's taillights disappeared behind the fog. He then descended slowly from the hood, sighed deeply, and lowered his head. A senior touched his shoulder, saying nothing. They all know the breakup is not the end. It was just a pause, because true love does not need loud confessions. No badge or microphone required. Sometimes, just one step up to the car, one unblinking look, and one tear that falls silently. It is more than enough to say, I love you, even when the world does not know what to name this relationship. 2 nights after the separation, the atmosphere in Jimin's unit barracks seemed calm. But there was one room where the lights were still on until late, and from inside, there was the sound of slowly folded paper. At the cold little wooden table, Jimin sat by himself, the pen in his hand shaking softly. In front of him, an anonymous envelope. But he knew exactly who the letter would be addressed to. He had just received news from a friend, news of what Jungkook was doing after he left. About that SUV, about that look, about a body standing on top of a car like refusing to let a breakup pass you by. Her tears fell slowly as she reread the message. Then he began to write, with words that he would never say in public, but he could only give it to the one person he cared for. To the one who stands even when I don't look back. I heard everything. Not from you, of course. Because you're too quiet, too, saving everything in your own smile. But I know you're standing on top of that SUV. I can imagine it. You stand still, staring at the road. Maybe wish I'd turned my head. But I didn't, because I know, if I turn around, I won't be able to leave. Jungkook, why do you always choose a way that makes my chest hurt at the same time full of hope? I want you to know when that car turned. I see your reflection in the glass. Even though I ran away, I knew it was you. And at that moment, I bit my lip so as not to cry. But that night, I cried too, not because of separation. Because I realized, no matter how far I go, my heart stays where you are. Thank you for not leaving. Thank you for being you. Park Jimin, asterisk, the envelope was tucked into a small bag that is usually carried for inter-Barak delivery. But fate says otherwise. Because that night, the letter was read by one of the military logistics staff who was sorting the goods. Her name is Let Yoon, one of the distribution organizers. He initially wanted to resort the dropped bag, then accidentally, the letter slipped out. It's legible. And when he read the names Jungkook and Jimin without a title, without a formal military greeting, he knew this was no ordinary letter. He didn't read everything, only part of it, but enough to make it sculpted. A few hours later, the letter finally reached Jungkook, but this time accompanied by a small note. I'm sorry I accidentally read part of your letter. But as an ordinary human being, I just want to say, never feel that pure love must be hidden. Yoon Jungkook read the letter silently in between night rehearsals. He was sitting in an empty storage room. When she finished reading, she didn't cry, he just smiled. A small but suffocating smile. Then he stood up, closed his eyes, and whispered, I will carry this letter until we are free. And after that, I won't hide anymore. They finally met again a week later in a joint inter-unit flag ceremony. All members stand in neat rows, head up, eyes straight. But in the middle of that row, two pairs of eyes found each other. Jimin looked down a little. Jungkook blinked slowly. Then, with a very smooth movement, Jimin touched his ring finger briefly, their silent symbol during this time that means, I am yours. And Jungkook just stands still. But on his chest, he clasped the folds of letters that have now become part of his life. They haven't spoken to the public yet. They haven't admitted anything yet. The army knows. Those who love sincerely can recognize the slightest hint, even from the shadow above the SUV or a neatly folded nameless letter, because true love does not always need grandiose declarations. Sometimes, just one step up the car and one sentence in a letter. No matter how far I go, my heart stays where you stand. In a world of spotlight where every move can be a headline and every look can be a subject of speculation, Jungkook and Jimin have shown one thing that can't be faked: emotional honesty. Not through flamboyant words, not through public recognition, but through small, electrifying acts, standing on the SUV, writing a letter silently, staring without saying, grasping hope even in silence. Their story is not about drama, not about puzzles that the public has to solve. Rather, it is about the courage to love within limits, about loyalty that does not waver even though it must be covered by uniforms and protocols. Army knows, not everything has to be announced to be real. There is a love so strong that its presence is felt in every beat, even when the two are far apart. Maybe the world hasn't heard them say, I love you in person, but the world has seen it, read it, felt it. And that's more than enough, because in the end, true love does not demand a stage. He only needs one thing: a heart that never stops standing, even when the whole world tells him to be quiet. And on the SUV that night that love stood. And it never really went down.